Hello, Legal Helm listeners. Today, I am delighted to be speaking with Tony Loiacono, Managing Director at Corpay, a leading B2B payment provider that has handled over 1 billion payment transactions across 145 currencies in over 100 countries. As well as being one of the nicest people I know, Tony has been in the industry for over 30 years, helping business streamline and improve payment processes, as well as taking the pain and cost away from sending funds internationally. In this podcast today, I'm going to be talking to Tony about how Corpay is helping businesses gain efficiency by improving their payment processes. Tony, hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, Bim. How are you? Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise, great to be talking to you again. So we were kind of just chatting about this before we started recording, but when I first met you, it was in Wayne, Philadelphia, in person, I think for the first time. And you were running at that time what I believe was known as Global Exchange Solutions, which then went on to be acquired by Corpay later on. Tell us a little bit about the journey of the early days of co-founding Global Exchange and what led you to Corpay.
Sure. Yeah. So we started Global Exchange, two of us, myself and Frank Signorello. Basically, we were in the international payment space in the late 80s and decided that we thought we could do it better than the company we were working for. So it took us 2 years to get Global off the ground. So we officially started our venture in 92, secured, banking facility and banking partners. And, we needed the route funds around the globe for our corporate clients at the time. So in 94, we opened our doors. So early stage, obviously we're a startup. So both of us were not only working for the startup, but working other big companies. And actually during that time, I worked for Westlaw. I worked for Thomson, believe it or not. So I kind of paralleled my careers while starting a company that I ultimately secured into, being acquired in 2017, and the rest is history. During that time, 30 years ago, certainly as a startup, I'm sure you can attest to this, Bim, it's not always a straight road. So we've meandered through the complexities of starting a business, grew it. The focus obviously was growth and new client acquisitions. And at the time, we were a foreign exchange business. If you're not familiar with that, basically we made international payments for corporate clients. So they would call us to move, say, at the time, this is pre-Euro, Italian lira, Deutschmarks, things on that level for their, vendor payments. So we grew the business in that space. And then we realized in the mid to late 90s that our most active clients were law firms. So we started the business in Philadelphia, which is, still in this area. And, again, through our sales model, we, again, acquired law firms in the Philly area. And over time, we became to know them really well. And then with my experience with Westlaw, kind of had a little bit of a legal-centric approach and the back office approach to understanding more of the pain points within a firm. And then back in the day, we realized that we can, within foreign exchange, there's a hedging component. There's a strategy that businesses use to protect the exchange rate when they ultimately have to make a future payment. So back in the late 90s, we built a solution around an integrated hedging strategy for our law firm clients to help them bill their client without having to deal with currency fluctuation risk. So that's what we built off of, and then we grew from there. So law firms realized that, hey, this is a very good, robust service that integrates into our back office, be it Elite or Adirant, that really does everything from the original document. So we built capacity to process from a law firm's foreign invoice that they passed to us. And we extracted the data, converted currency, created a billable rate in one currency, while in fact, when their client paid them, we're in fact making a payment in a different currency without having to revalue that payment. So it became a substantial solution for law firms who have this need. In particular, we focused on law firms that are intellectual property, have an IP practice, patent and trademark practice within law firms around the globe now. So fast forward, we built out these services to a point where in 2006, we were approached by a couple competitors to buy us at a bank to kind of help us address some of being a money service business that we were and are. There's rules and regulations around remitting payments around the globe. So we felt that becoming part of a bank would probably be the next natural step because it'll help us with a more secure approach when we're approaching law firm opportunities or opportunities that are outside of law that have this unique need to process from an invoice, do the data extraction, validate the future payment, build the payment, make the, send the funds globally. So we merged with a bank outside of Philly here called Fulton Bank. And we, kind of still had ownership capacity as well, which is a big factor for Frank and myself, because our goal was just to continue to grow the business. So we did that. And we were with them for, I think, 5 or 6 years, and we outgrew their capability to support us, is really bottom line. So they needed to divest their interest in us. And what happened was, 2012, a company called Cambridge came in and bought Fulton's shares of Global Exchange. So we merged into Cambridge is a foreign exchange business. And the rest is history. Basically, Cambridge collectively sold to a company called FleetCor, which is now rebranded to Corpay. So generally, that's kind of where we are now. But over that period of time, we built solutions around enhancing the experience for our clients, in particular, our law firm clients. So we broaden our capacity, broaden our capabilities where we do OCR process. We scrub for compliance. We integrate through API. We have the capacity to actually offer additional solutions through our vendor portal. So we just build upon what we know in our knowledge base. Good news is we have very low attrition rate. A lot of the people who are with us from day one are still with us and a part of the team. We serve law firms around the globe who have this unique need, and we continue to grow the business, which is a wonderful experience. My capacity now is running our business unit. We're still pretty much outside of Philly. Frank and I are still in the same place. We're encouraged to continue to grow the business under this giant behemoth of a business called FleetCor, which is a Fortune 1000 payments business. But we have very unique skill sets because, as you know, within a law firm is very unique as opposed to even any other business. So now we're tasked to grow outside the legal space, which we're doing a great job at, to offer the same services we offer to law firms to other entities who could benefit from the capacity that we can offer them. So that's kind of our quick story.
Fantastic. And a great story is how I'm
Thank you.
interested just on a personal level. I'm interested to know how different the kind of outcome was in terms of, like, now you're managing director of Corpay compared to your leaving university education, whatever you were doing in the early days. What did you dream of being, and where you've ended up now is obviously like an amazing position, but is it in the same industry that you were thinking about? Is this what you were kind of educated in? Like, just interested to know that part of the journey as well.
Yeah, sure. So I graduated from university in 1985. I was a strategic management major and an IT major, so I was a dual major. So I had that capacity and that capability. At the end of the day, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur and own my own business. That's bottom line, is something that I've always aspired to do from as long as I could. Naturally, you just don't fall into starting a business when you graduate from university. So I started working for a company called ADP, Automatic Data Processing. And that's where I kind of had an opportunity, because I was hired as to really learn how to kind of develop business strategically. So it was a program that I was a part of that was kind of an advanced or accelerated opportunity to really learn their business from the inside out. There was only a handful of people who were hired to do this, perform this role. I was a guy hired outside of our area in Philadelphia, and you kind of reverse engineer the business development process. So from there, I went into foreign exchange. I kind of left ADP. I always liked international business, had an opportunity to kind of enter the international payment space. That's kind of when my career kind of took off. I kind of backfilled into Thomson Elite in 92 because I left the international payment space knowing that we were starting global exchange. So I decided that it was good. It was best interest to kind of leave that space. I took an opportunity. Naturally, I was pursued, which is a good thing, by Thompson to work in their West Long division, which is a very good opportunity. But it also helped bridge me into international payments where I ultimately left Elite and then just obviously, I mean, not Elite, left Thompson, Westlaw to, kind of when the business was ready to happen to kind of go into my own business. So it's, the company that we built and could support me. And that's when our growth really accelerated. I think if I have one regret is not leaving sooner, probably a few years sooner than when I left, but it was fine.
I feel like at some point we should do some kind of reunion of all the ex-Thompson and Elite people, and I think we'd be able to fill a very big venue. I think of all of
I think you're right. You're right.
yeah, it's a bit like having an extended family, right?
It's true.
Yeah, but it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. Thank you for sharing that. So just I'm guessing that over the years that you've been in the industry, the whole B2B payment market has changed significantly. What are some of the highlights of that you've seen in terms of how things have progressed?
Yeah, I think it's changed. So there are two things. One, fundamentally, when you look under the hood, it hasn't changed. In order to assemble a payment, especially an international payment. So there are two types of payments. One's international, one's domestic. On the U.S. domestic side, for example, payments are made through check, ACH. And what's becoming a little more popular is through a credit card as well to vendors who accept card. On the international side, it's still a Swift wire transfer or an IACH, which is international ACH payment. The difference is on the Swift wire, there's more characters for you to include reference information, purpose of payment. On our law firm side, that's very important because we include reference information in the Swift messaging. So, from that process, it's really, and I'm not saying it hasn't changed, but it's still the same secure network in order to facilitate a payment from one point of entry, say in the US to say, London, for example. So you're still using the same, MT103, you're still using the same fundamental payment process. However, with that being said, above board, above the hood, or, when you look at kind of the car, there's a lot of processes around creating that Swift message or that payment that is really substantially changed. From processing directly from an original document, doing data extraction, using OCR, AI capabilities that we've kind of incorporated into our process as well, in order to help us become more efficient when we receive an ultimate payment from a client. But really, before it becomes a payment, it needs to be integrated into their billing system or their ERP or whatever it is that they have on their side to record it and then ultimately make the payment when they're ready for payment. So from a high end, there's been substantial changes. We built a vendor portal, for example, to connect actually foreign vendors with our clients. So if we have a client here in Philadelphia, we have the capacity now to connect all their vendors, international vendors, through a portal. Saves them a tremendous amount of time because it does the validation, does kind of the pre-billing kind of validation and things on that level before it actually can hit, say, Chrome River, for example, and then obviously go through the approval process and then ultimately hit us again. So then we can, convert those currencies in order to create matter currencies and ultimately make the payment after the client's been paid, say, in 60 or 90 days. So on the high end, there's been substantial changes, dynamic steps in the process, but underneath, the process, the underlayment, there's a bedrock there of, it's foundational in order to create the payment and secure funding anyone around the globe. So that's actually a good thing because, now where we are now, we work with a multitude of banks around the globe in order to remit payments on behalf of, our client needs, depending on whether, you're a major law firm or whether you're a major corporation or even a small business. Doesn't really matter. We don't gauge our relationships on business size or client size. It's just based on them flowing into our workflow. So.
Understood. And you mentioned earlier kind of like some of the focus on law firms in particular. and some of their unique needs around security, compliance, and the complex fee
Yeah.
structures that they may have. I'd be interested to learn a little bit more about how Corpay kind of tailors its solutions for that market specifically, so that you're really focused on the needs of a law firm.
Yeah, law firms are very complex, as you know. Their needs are I would say, more granular than any other type of organization, in my experience. Uh, and the reason why is because they're basically performing, if you think about what a law firm's doing, it's performing a service for its customer. And part of that service is they need to bill them for the work they're doing in order to do what they need to do for their customer. So that involves a lot of details around the billing process and the cost recovery process. And then to layer into that, there's non-recoverable expenses as well that are firm charges. So in our world, we process based on the unique needs of each law firm client. So for example, we have certain, every law firm in our world has a unique profile that is unique to them. It's like their fingerprint. That their processing instructions are very different between, one client and another. And that's only because they're law firms. So on the high end, law firms, while they're all, practicing law fundamentally, their back office is very different. Each one has separate unique requirements, because at the end of the day, law firms are owned by a bunch of partners that everyone has unique needs. That's what creates the uniquenesses of our processing standards. So, we have, standard processes, but then, within our standard processes, every client is different. What that means for us is that we can validate. So we validate from their, elite, for example, or their Adirant, for example. It doesn't really matter. To ensure that, their matter currency is correct. Their matter numbers are validated against what's in their system. Their timekeeper. So if a timekeeper leaves, for example, kicks out of our system before it's even billed, because then we ask the firm, hey, is this, you still want to bill it because you have a different cut, here's a timekeeper that's no longer at the firm. Things like that happen, and they happen in real time. So our process is very unique in that space. One difference between us and every competitor in our space is that our services are built by law firms for law firms. So it's very unique. The experience you get when you're dealing with us, as opposed to any competitor, is that we're not putting lipstick on a pig, as they say. Our services, our technology is based on the law firm experience. So immediately when a client onboards with us, their process is immediately different. And it's not different to a fault. It's different to an enhancement, meaning that they'll experience an immediate increase in their experience, their client experience, because it's just a very granular process. I can't tell you how many times that I've heard clients have told me, I wish I would use you guys sooner. I can't believe how much, much better you are than, who we were using before. So while the integration is still very similar to what our competitors can do, the overall experience is far greater than anything that they can offer. So we know where all the issues are. And I think that helps us with our tenure in the space, our experience in back office in a law firm. But then all that experience kind of is helping us springboard us into non-legal opportunities who just don't have as many data points. They don't have as many critical elements in, kind of creating a disbursement, for example. So we have that capability, but we can dilute that down based on the need. Because again, every client has their own unique fingerprint within, their set up within our system.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful.
Hey, John, how do I find out what we've invoiced my client?
How can I view my outstanding WIP?
How do I submit my expenses again?
Do we have next Monday off?
Monday off?
It's exciting to have fresh faces at your law firm, but onboarding them takes a lot of time and a lot of energy when everyone is remote. You're busy enough as it is. Helm 360 has the solution. Just ask Termi. Helm 360's next level chatbot solution for knowledge management. Termi can answer many of your new hires' questions for you without distracting you or anyone else at the firm. This means fewer frantic emails, fewer help desk tickets, more time and more focused productivity for everyone at the firm. Working with Termi, you can have those eager new employees up to speed in a snap. They may never need to ask you a question again. Check out helm360.com/Termi to see Termi in action and find out how it can make onboarding new hires as easy as sending an email.
And you, I think you kind of touched on this a little bit with your answer, but the experience and understanding of the industry is a big part of what you guys do. And I think when I think about, and I think when a lot of people think about some of the things that can be done from a payment automation perspective, they're thinking technology first. But I'd be interested to get your view in terms of how much of it is actually the people around the technology that and the process side of things that could be actually the winning formula for you guys.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's interesting. It's like I said before, we have a very low attrition rate within our team. Our team is very experienced. It's just not a question of them knowing the back office, say, of a law firm. I guess there's billing systems and all that good stuff. But it's the fact that just, they've been with us for such a long time. But then we also, so then there's a lot of complementary elements of our team, because not only do we have the team, but we also have the technology. So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to continue to improve the experience on the client side. And that's really through technology, but we're using our team in order to do that and, encouraging them through our experience and us just being here. The fact, for example, that Frank and I are still in the business is a testament to the fact that, hey, we're very passionate about our clients. We're very passionate about the business and the success of the business. And what comes with that is the fact that, we from the top want to make sure that not only our employees and our team is happy, incented, encouraged, just a part of the decision-making process. And that really applies to our clients as well. So, one of the key elements of what we're doing is making sure that each client is served purposefully and making sure that, their experience is nothing but the best. So, for example, if the client has any issue, they can call me directly, as an example. Fortunately, I don't get many calls like that, but, we know clients and we know the will, and those clients know our team. So there's more of a personalized approach to our relationships, but we don't rely on that from a perspective of, hey, they know us and everything's going to be fine. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to continue to build upon our technology to ensure that our clients stay with us for a long period of time. So we have very little erosion of our clients. Our clients typically do not leave us. And, we pride ourselves on that. And that has to do with, and I say this a lot. So, clients aren't going to stay with us just because we're here. Clients have to stay with us because the experience is nothing but the best, and we keep pushing ourselves to be better. And that's kind of the underlying current in our organization. And part of that process is making sure that we have a good team who's been with us, who is kind of part of the process, and not just plugging people in just to do a job, or plugging people in and we're not micromanaging people. Let's put it that way. We're making people be a part of that process and helping our clients be, just be more efficient.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. It sounds like the passion that you guys have as founders and people who've started this kind of business is replicated amongst the team, right? And that's really, really lovely to see, actually. Yeah. Good. So on the technology front, as I'm sure you're aware, there's lots in the news about cybersecurity attacks and just security in general when it comes to technology solutions that are delivered in the cloud, etc. What are you seeing from like the payment side of things, and what kind of things are you guys thinking about in terms of security for the future and making sure customers are protected from that perspective?
Yeah, that's another good question. So that's a big thing, obviously, in our space, because you're sending funds all over the globe. through our internal validation process, we integrate compliance within so whenever you remit funds through your bank, for example, they have a compliance team before funds leave the door. They scrub for validating a vendor and ensuring that, the elements of the payment are correct and reconfirm with the client, things like that. We do the same thing on our side, but we it's the same thing on steroids, if that makes sense. So through our technology, before even the payment's built and created and sent, we're scrubbing for compliance. We run through, for example, an OFAC list, which is an Office of Foreign Assets Control, to ensure that you're not sending funds to the wrong people. Those things kick out of our system, sanctioned country payments, things on that level. But even once that's done, once the payment is actually built, we also do a secondary compliance screening and then go back to our client to ensure that they recognize that these payments are being made. It's all really designed to make sure that if any invoice, for example, hits our system, is an invoice that shouldn't be it's a fraudulent invoice. So those things have the ability to be kicked out of our system naturally, as opposed to integrating through our system. So for example, someone who shouldn't be is sending an invoice to a law firm and it hits our system through whichever way, because someone overlooked it, it's going to kick out of our system and we kick it back to the firm to ensure that payments aren't made. Because once the payment's made, then, it's very difficult to repatriate funds, obviously, internationally. So we do have a process built around that. But, we, ensure before that point of entry is executed, just like any other financial institution, we comply within the rules and regulations, not only remitting funds across the globe, but using the technology we have in order to, protect the payment, ultimate payment. And that's really important because there's always phishing, there's always scams. There's always someone trying to remit payment. We have experience with, clients sending us a payment request and, it's a fraudulent payment request. And those things like that do kick out of our system. We do use technology and people to look at the purpose of the payment, to ensure that, we revalidate physically back to the client, verbally back to the client through, for larger transactions, for example, all large transactions, for example, hit up to made and to ensure that, hey, anything looks extraordinary or out of the ordinary, we kind of pull it and just, reconfirm with the client, hey, is this a legitimate payment, for example? For us, I'd rather be south on the safety side than north on the just the remitting and payment side. So, that's kind of the thing we do on our side. Plus being a part of a very large it's not financial institution, but organization that focuses exclusively on payments, because that's what we do. There's secondary layers of protection as well that we have baked into our capability, our technology and things on that level.
And does AI play a part in this? Because obviously there's the negative side of AI where that's kind of encouraging it to become easier potentially and better sophisticated hacks by leveraging AI to be able to do that kind of stuff. But actually, there's also some benefits in terms of being able to use AI from a fraud detection perspective and that kind of stuff. So, what are you seeing in terms of that side of things from the pure technology end?
Yeah, I mean, so on the payment request side, you have your bad apples out there who want to try to be paid in some capacity. So I don't think that's going to stop. And I think that with the AI, it's getting more and more sophisticated. They're very savvy people out there who are trying to get paid in any way they can. I think on our side, while we can't prevent that from happening, we have internal controls to prevent that from happening. So through our internal validation process, our pre-screening process, our vendor validation process, we have our system in place is that if a unique request comes in that's larger than an average transaction, it kicks out of our system, for example. So anything that looks unique, if it's in a different currency, for example, that has never been paid by this client, it'll kick out of our system. And basically we go back to the client to request and we physically add the list of, contacts in order to validate that. So while a request would come in and the firm or client would never know that, we go directly back to the authority within our client to confirm that, and validate that, hey, this is a legitimate request. Yes. Or we didn't know about that. Thank you for catching it. Then we have to go to the authorities and all that good stuff like we normally do. And that's just a part of the process. So,
Sure.
but from an AI perspective, AI is getting better on the bad apple side, obviously, but on our side, we are using AI in some capacity to process our invoices and our ultimate payment requests, just to become more efficient. But we still have humans behind the scenes too, who are kind of managing those steps along the way as well. So there's always a big human element. And I think that's the one big thing with what we offer in comparison to anyone else. So we're not building services around just pointing our clients in the direction of a portal or technology. We're kind of blending the human element along with technology and continue to build upon the technology without eliminating the human element. There's always going to be a factor, especially in our space, to have people. So, which is good. So we're building bandwidth around adding more team in order to support the technology and support, obviously, more clients coming on board. So we always have capacity, but there are people involved who are deeply knowledgeable, deeply passionate about, client experience. It's kind of pride ourselves on. So.
Yeah, no, it sounds like the perfect balance, really. So if I'm a firm looking to get some of the benefits of automation and leveraging some of the payment solutions that you guys offer, what does the typical onboarding look like, and what can firms expect coming onto your platform?
Sure. So generally, we have a whole systematic approach to onboarding clients. So naturally, we go through the discovery phase with a non-client, for example, or a prospective client. Go through the process to, do everything we can in order to encourage that client to start using our solution. Once that happens, we go through a natural paperwork phase, but we also go through an onboarding process. So the onboarding team is based on our account management team, who is assigned an account manager along with, depending on the client, would be myself, for example, or, whoever is a part of that discovery process to sit in on the call. And it's basically a virtual kickoff meeting to build our client's profile, go through the process of onboarding, which is a natural component of kind of transitioning a non-client into our system and then passing that client off into the system. So there's like a two-phased approach. So we go through our onboarding phase, which is our process review phase, kind of similar to what probably you guys do, where you go through just the process of getting a meeting together with the key stakeholders to understand what their, needs are, build a profile, and then start testing. So we go through the testing phase, incorporate, say you guys, for example, to help with integrations, depending on the needs, if the clients using you guys or anyone, building out their billing system and obviously testing, sample transactions, making sure the billing system is integrated, as an example, on the law firm side, or just ensuring that, there's smooth transition. We set up a kind of a weekly cadence with these clients, these non-clients, until they become, kind of transition, and there's a redirect date or, start date. So let's say, for example, it's, their start date is March 1st, for example, then, that's our go live date, and that's when they redirect. So, but it's a phased approach where before a client is actually redirected, everything is tested, tried and true, and systems are operational. And then, they're encouraged actually, once they redirect, we go through training and all that good stuff. It's not complicated to use our portal and use our service, our solution. But, clients have to know the output that we're receiving, what to use within the portal, to report writing and things on that level, and just how to get us their information. So, that's coding the process. And then once they're in, then, we manage that workflow, have all going to ensure that things are operational, working smoothly. So, I could tell you 100% of our clients have onboarded this way. It's the most effective way with the least pain points in order to ensure smooth onboarding.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And it sounds like a lot of the benefits of using the service are obviously like big time savers, less error prone in terms of the payment process. Are there other benefits? Like I think you mentioned earlier, some something like the focus on foreign exchange in particular. Are there other cost benefits in terms of using the service that might be interesting for a firm who are doing international payments, for example?
No question. That's another great question. So, I mean, there's many, many benefits, as you would imagine. There's billing is one thing, but when you layer in foreign currency and international payments, that's another level. So we kind of manage that whole process, but our solutions and our services, so there's no onboarding fees, for example. There's no fees. The only fees we charge are for what we call one-for-ones or like-for-like payments, only because anything that's integrated and has a conversion associated with it, we absorb any costs associated with wire transfer fees or anything on that level naturally through the solution. The one-for-ones only have one-off fees. That's it. In comparison, our competitors were always falling kind of the lower end of the spectrum on the cost side. The other most important factor is that our exchange rate. So typically when you're dealing with an international payment provider, their exchange rates, their markups are all over the place. So we don't play that game. We don't play the currency game. I always say this, if you're looking for a provider who's going to sit there and, play the exchange rate game, we're not the company, because we just set a markup and that's it. We don't do that. We focus on the experience. We focus on technology. We focus on data integration, process improvement, just making our clients' lives easier. So our clients can rest assured knowing, hey, we're not sitting there trying to strip out more revenue from, a dollar that may have gone north or south. It's not the business where we basically just focus on making sure our clients are integrated. Everything is tried and true. The integrity of the process is in place. And we look for our long-term relationships as number one and key priority. And that really shows in our relationships we have with our clients. We don't have any client turnover. I can tell you, touch wood, we very rarely lose a client. If we do lose a client, it's through a merger, an acquisition, and some clients naturally will go out of business, but we don't see many law firms going out of business. So, we kind of pride ourselves on the fact that once a client's in with us, we work really hard to maintain the relationship, and the pricing is very, very competitive as well in our space in comparison to everyone, banks and competitors aside. So, we never lose business in pricing. It's just not an element in our vocabulary that we're concerned with.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tony, for sharing that. I want to ask a couple of final wrap-up questions, if I may.
Sure.
The first of which is, if you could borrow Doctor Who's time machine and go back to Tony at 18 years old, what advice would you give him?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think, follow your passion. I think if you're passionate about something, start it sooner than later. Maybe don't focus on negativity, just focus on, making yourself better. School's your roadmap, and you have to obviously get educated, get experience. Don't be afraid to work for companies where you're going to garner experience, and, always try to learn something, and always try to, I always look for a takeaway. Me personally, I always try to learn something and take away something from an experience or a relationship in some capacity and use that to make myself better. I think if I had to go back to that point, I probably would make, everyone, has changes they would make. But I think the fundamental thing on my side is that I followed my passion. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I realized that early stage, that's not possible. But you have to understand that, while you want to, achieve a goal, you have to also, kind of get a little muddy along the way. And I think you always have to realize that, you know, entitlement's a bad thing, in my opinion, because people who are entitled feel that they're owed something. And, I don't think anyone's owed anything, in my opinion. It's just, you know, you have to work for everything you have, no matter what level you're at. So.
Fantastic. Great advice. And final question, you're obviously a well-traveled man. Where in the world is your favorite destination and why?
Oh boy. I'm going to have to say the Amalfi Coast of Italy. There's no question, in my opinion. It's one of the most beautiful places, not only from a historical perspective, it's the vibrant life perspective. While I've been to Greece, though, too, I've been to Santorini, and Crete as well is beautiful. I love, you know, the experience of Greece. So I think my number one would no question be Italy. I think it has a lot to do with my descent as well, my Italian descent, but without question, it's just one of the most beautiful places. If anyone, I always tell people if they have an opportunity to visit Italy at one point in their life, they should go. But I think don't bite it off. Don't think you're going to bite that apple in one bite, because it's just physically not possible to experience Italy in one bite. The Amalfi Coast, in my opinion, would be one of the top places to visit, at least initially.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. That's definitely on my bucket list as well. And I had a funny feeling that you were going to say somewhere initially. So good.
Shocker, right,
Yeah.
Bim? You know me too well.
There you go. Tony, thank you so much for spending so much time with us today. We've learned a lot about payments and Corpay, and really interesting to learn about your history in terms of getting there. Really some inspirational parts of this conversation. So really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bim. I appreciate it. And, it was always a nice thing. I will be in London the first week of March, so hopefully we'll get to see each other.
Fantastic. Yep. Look
All
forward.
right, great. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Legal Helm. Thank you as always for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us out.